The Sunfury is the overarching term referring to the Blood Elf forces who served under Prince Kael'thas' Sunstrider. After the Third War and his return to Silvermoon, the prince set out with about 15% of the surviving Blood Elves in order to aid the Alliance remnants in Lordaeron against the Scourge. In total, after joining Illidan in Outland, Kael'thas' forces numbered several thousand Blood Elves, though more volunteers from Quel'thalas trickled in after the Dark Portal was reopened. During the years after Illidan's defeat against Arthas at the Frozen Throne, Prince Kael'thas gradually grew more and more disillusioned with the Demon Hunter's leadership. This, coupled with the Blood Elf's growing addiction to fell magic, made him increasingly vulnerable to subtle overtures from Kil'jaeden. The breaking point for the prince came when Illidan ordered the Blood Elves to attack Sha'tar's city, but refused to allow his own demon hunters to join the fight. After the force Kael'thas sent defected and became the modern Scryers, the prince was further infuriated by Illidan's refusal to retaliate, which he saw as the demon hunter not truly caring about his people. At that point, Kael'thas privately defected and led his forces to the Netherstorm, though he promised Illidan that he would one day return at one point. The prince did leave some of his forces behind in Shadowmoon Valley, including 4 exceptionally gifted but arrogant champions, the self-titled Illidari Council, as leaders of the Blood Elves left and as advisors to Illidan. The Blood Elves of Shadowmoon Valley remained steadfastly loyal to Illidan even after the prince's betrayal was revealed, and the Illidari Council came to lead much of the war effort during the war in Outland, including the defense of the Black Temple. Kael'thas had shown interest in the Netherstorm even before betraying Illidan. The prince attempted repeatedly to harvest the great energies of the area, but they proved to be too chaotic for his own powers. After arriving in the Netherstorm, the Sunfury Blood Elves assaulted and conquered most of Tempest Keep, a narrow-dimensional ship which arrived in Outland prior in order to help the Draenei. With the exception of the Exodar, which they could not conquer, the Blood Elves dismantled much of Tempest Keep under the guidance of Kil'jaeden, rendering it unable to travel across worlds in order to construct mana forges, large machines which siphoned magic from the twisting nether. Though highly effective, the mana forges gradually weakened the fabric of reality in the Netherstorm, threatening to unleash another cataclysmic event upon Outland. The harvested arcane energy was stored in enchanted mana cells, and Kil'jaeden urged Prince Kael'thas to ship as many as possible to Quel'thalas, as the demon lord believed they would eventually help craft the Legion's portal in the Sunwell. In addition, as is well known, Prince Kael'thas also sent the captured Naru Muru to Silvermoon, and the Magisters there succeeded in tapping into its power in order to empower paladins known as Blood Knights. Interestingly though, a large portion of the Sunfury forces, both those loyal to Illidan and those loyal to Kael'thas, also consisted of Blood Knights, despite, until the stealing of Muru from Silvermoon, not having a Naru to feed on. The Sunfury Blood Elves were the first to create mana bombs, powerful explosive devices fueled by pure arcane energy. Unlike the later and more famous one used at Faramore, which was empowered by the focusing iris of the blue dragonflight, the mana bombs used by Kael'thas' forces, either due to their lower yield or due to differences in design, did not damage solid objects other than permeating them with an arcane aura, harming only their living victims. Nonetheless, they were still powerful enough to kill all of the inhabitants of a small to medium-sized settlement or outpost. The first one was used to kill the inhabitants of Kirin Var village, a Kirin Tor holding in the Netherstorm. The second one was used to destroy the Cenarian Thicket in Terakar Forest as a response to their interference in the Blood Elf experiment in Hellfire Peninsula. Another bomb was empowered at Firing Point, also in Terakar, for use against the Horde and Alliance outposts in the area, but it was stopped and detonated by adventurers within the Blood Elf holding. Later on, during the war against the Lich King, the Kirin Tor collaborated with the Sun Reavers to create their own mana bombs, but they were not perfected until recently. The weakening of the fabric of reality in the Nether Storm due to the Mana Forges eventually attracted the Ethereals to Outland. Relations between the Sunfury Blood Elves and the various factions of Ethereals varied. Many groups allied themselves and began trading with the elves. Over time though, more and more began severing their relationship for various reasons, either because they wished to stop the damage the elves were doing to the world, they desired closer relations with the Sha'tar instead, or simply because the Blood Elves did not hold to their end of the bargain. Regardless though, Ethereal mercenaries continued helping the Sunfury to the very end and were essential in smuggling large amounts of mana cells to the Isle of Quel'danas. Despite the fact that Prince Kael'thas ultimately aligned himself with the Burning Legion, most of the Sunfury Blood Elves were not dedicated followers of the Burning Crusade. Generally speaking, after the prince's betrayal was revealed, the common Sunfury soldiers continued fighting for him for one of three reasons: either out of genuine loyalty to the prince and or the Blood Elf people as a whole, because of the generous pay they received, or because they believed they could master and use the power of the demons for their own. Of the Sunfury, those most personally loyal to Prince Kael'thas were allowed to gorge themselves on demonic blood by Kil'jaeden, becoming the Fell Blood Elves. The Fell Blood Elves, as an elite, loyal and now a moral force, were also the ones who attacked Silvermoon on the orders of the prince and stole the Naru Muru, and became the elite bodyguards of Kael'thas, also tasked with defending the Sunwell Plateau. After Prince Kael'thas' defeat at the hands of the Horde and the restoration of the Sunwell, most of the Sunfury forces probably disbanded. As the Isle of Quel'danas is once again under the control of Silvermoon, it can be presumed that most of the prince's forces there were either eradicated or defected during the battle. However, it has been stated that Kael'thas did not bring all of his Blood Elf forces from Outland. Of those, to the surprise of some in Quel'thalas, a number of them returned voluntarily to the kingdom before the war against the Lich King, and were probably not tried or discriminated against for their actions. In fact, they seem to have been almost immediately integrated into Quel'thalas' armed forces, and their contribution helped ease the strain the Farstriders endured with protecting the kingdom's borders. It's unknown how many of the Sunfury Blood Elves still remain in Outland, what their purpose might be, or even if they are still united, but it's unlikely that they pose a major threat. Of the elves which remain loyal to Illidan and not to Kael'thas though, it can be safely presumed that they are mostly dead, as the Horde Alliance and Sha'tar campaign against Illidan gradually pushed his forces back to the Black Temple, where they were then annihilated in the siege.